So today we're going to do the last review of chapter 19. I felt that last week Dorit and Cheryl weren't following me because I think you needed more hands-on. So we're gonna do the hands-on. And I realize every time I review a chapter, I understand it better. So I'm like, okay, last week I didn't understand it the same way that I understand it this week. So it's gonna be really like after 3 weeks of learning it, it's gonna be, sorry about that. It's going to be a good review and a more profound understanding of chapter 19, which for some reason I really connect to and I really, really enjoyed learning. Okay, so chapter 19 begins. First of all, it's the continuation of chapter 18. In chapter 18, we learned about the concept of chachma. We understood what chachma is and how it is in our neshama, and how it's vessel that contains the highest part of light of God, and that is found in every neshama, right? You remember that? The whole concept of chachma, and why is it only chachma that can contain this light? Is because chachma is the strength of what? Of nothingness. It's completely annulled to the point that it could contain a light that is infinite. It's only Chachma that is able to contain that light. Now in chapter 19, we're going to understand what is this hidden love that we inherited. We're going to, the Alter Rebbe divides it in 4. First of all, he tells us how is it possible to inherit a love of God. Inherit, ça veut dire hériter. Comment c'est possible d'hériter un amour, une émotion? How is it possible? A parent could give over ideas, concepts, how do you call it, cultures, and different things, but an emotion, everything your parents feel, you have to feel. Is that really it? How is that possible to inherit an emotion? That's the first thing that the Alter Rebbe will discuss. Then, once we understand that this emotion that we inherit is really a soul, it's not an emotion, we inherit a soul that Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov gave over a soul, a special soul, a soul with different characteristics, and within that soul, it has the chachma, that really high light and bright light that automatically has different characteristics. We're going to understand how it expresses itself, okay? Then we're going to understand, so we understand the source, where it comes from, this love. Les trois patriarches, mais c'est pas un amour qu'ils nous ont donné, c'est une neshama. C'est la neshama, the Jewish soul, okay? Now that we understand, we want to know, what is this soul? What's the source of this soul? Where does it come from? And what's the theme of the soul? How does it express itself? Okay? And lastly, it's going to tell us, the last question is every love, okay? Because we're talking about love. So how is love encompassed in the soul? And every love, every healthy love needs to have fear. So if it says that we inherited a love from the forefathers, is fear within this love? How is fear also inherited? Okay, so the Alter Rebbe divides it into 4 steps to understand what this hidden love is, okay, that we spoke about in chapter 18. I'm going to repeat the 4 steps. The first thing is he's going to explain to us, how is it possible to inherit a love, an emotion from generation to generation? Many things are passed down from generation to generation, but you don't usually see emotion. So how's that possible? Then he's going to explain us what's the origin and the source of this hidden love. Then he's going to explain us the theme and aspiration. What is this love looking for? What does it live for? Every love has something it aspires to, right? You can't just love for nothing. Every love is a research for something, is searching something. What is this love searching for? And lastly, the Alter Rebbe is going to explain us how this love has fear within, how we inherit not only love, but fear too. And how is that possible? So the Tanya starts off with, I don't know why I find this verse beautiful. Ner Hashem Nishmat Adam. Do you know what it means?
On l'a parlé plusieurs fois.
On a parlé, alors qu'est-ce que ça veut dire?
La Ner Hashem, la bougie de Dieu, c'est l'âme de l'homme.
Exactly.
Toi, tu rappelais ça à la flamme, la métaphore, c'était la flamme qui cherche à se détacher du bari pour retourner vers...
So the first thing that the parak brings is that the candle of God is the soul of man. Okay, what does this verse mean? It means that our soul is like a candle. It's God's candle. It's the way that God can see in the world. It's his candle. It's his light that he sees through us in the world. Now, why does it bring this pasuk? Because the neshama is really, when we said, how can love be inherited? In this parak, the Alter Rebbe explained that it's not really a love that we inherited, but it's a soul that we inherited. And the soul, he's going to explain us what it works, okay? How it works. So everything and everyone has a soul. Everyone has a soul. The table has a soul, the cup has a soul, every human being, animals have a soul, and they're always passed down. Those soul is passed down from generation to generation. The Jewish person has a soul that was inherited from the forefathers, and this soul comes with specific characteristics that explains why we have this hidden love and deep, deep connection with Hashem. Okay, so what did we inherit? How is this neshama, the Jewish soul, different? What? So first, we understood Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam. This is where we understand that this love, this hidden love that we were speaking about in the past few chapters, is really the soul and the candle of God. And we only got it because of our forefathers were able to bring it down and pass it through generation to generation. Now, why is it different? Why is it different than every other soul? Why is it that the Jewish people are different? I mean, you can't deny it. In the world, generations, throughout the generations, you saw how the Jewish people were different than all the other nations, and how the other nations, it drove them nuts, and they tortured us, and they try to separate that soul or that godliness within us. What is different within that soul is that it has the chachma within it. Within it, it has a light that is super high. It contains a light that is super high, that comes from the source of chachma, and that is called the ava mesuter. So automatically within that soul, there is that hidden love. And how can we describe that soul? It's like a candle, right? If the answer is within the first pasuk, it's like a candle. Why is the flame of the candle moving all the time? Why is it dancing? Did you ever see a flame that doesn't move? Because the source of fire is upwards, and it always wants to rejoin its source. So it's constantly in movement, trying to detach from the wick that keeps it down. So too, our neshama is constantly in movement, constantly searching and trying and reaching, trying to detach itself from the body. The body is like the wick, and trying to reach a higher place and regain its source with Hashem and be one with Hashem.
Because it's where we're coming from, right?
Because that's the source, exactly.
Okay, donc c'est confirmé. Je m'en fous, j'enregistre.
Yeah, it's okay.
Que we're coming from God.
Yeah, but everyone comes from God. The difference is the source. This source we contain within our neshama.
Ouais.
We have a really high, that's what we were explaining last week or a few weeks ago. Within our neshama, we have chachma. What is chachma?
Chachma, c'est la force de quoi?
Chachma, exactly. It's that conscient, because chachma is a vessel that contains a light that's so strong, so powerful, that it's a light that's infinite. We cannot contain, finite people cannot contain infinite.
Okay, oui.
But only our neshama, who has the faculty of chachma, is able to contain infinity.
Okay.
So basically, in short terms, within a Jewish soul, there's the power of infinity, which is contrast to this. No, contrast to this world. This world is very finite. Everything has an end. Nothing continues and is infinite. Nothing besides the Jewish soul. It's the only thing. And if the Jewish people exist today, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. When you read our history, it doesn't make sense for Jewish people to exist today. It doesn't make sense. I read recently, I forgot what I was reading, but back in the 2000 years ago, and after the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash, there was so much killing of the Jewish people that it doesn't make sense that they survived. First of all, their temple was destroyed. They were taken out of Israel, spread out. And besides that, that's for sure. But I'm saying just 2,000 years ago, when the temple, if you read the story of what happened, of what the Romans did, it doesn't make sense that the Jews survived.
Wow.
So that was the power of infinity that's within our neshama that kept us living till today. And that only exists in a Jewish neshama. Everything else is finite. Every other soul, even if it's spiritual, it's finite. It has an end to it. I mean, even our body has an end to it. Our body is not finite. Why is it important to understand how our neshama works? Why do you think it's so important to understand how a Jewish neshama works? Do you find it important to you? Why is it important? Pourquoi c'est important de comprendre pourquoi on a une neshama et comment elle fonctionne? Ouais.
C'est tout ce qu'on ne possède pas comme connaissance, que le physique, on sait qu'on a la connaissance, comment on doit l'alimenter. Pour moi, c'est le carburant du corps, c'est le carburant de tout.
Yeah. So Dorit said there's some background noise somewhere. I'm not sure whose noise that is, but anyways. So Dorit was saying, it's just like you understand your body well and you know how to take care of it. So too, you have to understand your neshama and know how to take care of it. But I have something deeper to add. When you understand the neshama and you realize that the neshama is a paradox to this world, it's opposite to this world, you understand that our whole life as a Jew is a paradox. Why? Because we have something infinite, spiritual. Mm-hmm. We have this yearning to rejoin our source, to go back to our source and to go back to Hashem and to be one with Hashem. And at the same time, we have this physical body that keeps us down in this world.
Everything and person has a soul. So by definition, a soul is eternal.
So yes, everyone has a soul, but the neshama soul is different. Everyone has a soul, okay? They all have a soul. Their soul, their characteristic, I didn't study how their soul works, but I could imagine it's like the nefesh habamit, like our animal soul, and it wants to live in this world. Yeah. The difference with the neshama, the Jewish soul, it does not want to be in this world. It does not want any physical. It's constantly yearning to be one with its source. It's like a candle, constantly trying to detach from the body and being reunited with God. So we live in a constant paradox. For a Jew not to have issues is not normal. He's not Jewish. You know, there was once a person in 770, I think, a young boy. He was in his 20s. He was studying there, and a very good boy, loved studying, loved learning. And once I think the Rebbe told him, or somehow they told him, "You're not Jewish." He had the wrong. I don't know why he thought he was Jewish, and which he was okay with. He wasn't surprised. But when someone asked, like, how do you know? I don't remember the story. I might be messing it up and it's recorded, but I just remember the punchline was, how did you know? It's because he didn't have the struggle. They saw his teachers or someone, he didn't have that struggle of like, for him, it was easy. Yeah, I want to do this. I would like, he didn't have that struggle. So by understanding how our neshama works, that our neshama does not want to be in this body. Our neshama is constantly like a flame yearning to rejoin its source, to go up and become one with infinity, with our Ein Sof, with the light of God, to the point where it loses its identity. Having that neshama mixed with our animal soul, who wants to live in this world, who wants the physical, is a huge paradox and a huge contrast and a constant struggle. So not to struggle is not normal. For a Jew, it's normal to struggle. And only when you understand this can you begin to find peace. If not, you can't find peace. And that's why people are always looking for peace. People who don't understand this concept of the neshama are always looking, wait, I want to find peace. But only when you understand, wait, no, I'm not going to find the peace that I'm looking for.
Until I die.
No, but you're going to find a different kind of peace. You're going to understand that you have to take care of your neshama, and you have to take care of your body, and that you can take care of your neshama by still being physical if you elevate everything you do. That's where you find peace, not by trying to find something to satisfy that emptiness or that struggle that you have within you. Okay, so how can love be inherited? So again, this is a question we learned before, that Ava Mesuteres, it's a hidden love. But in this parak, it explains us that this love is really a neshama. And the expression of the neshama, the way the neshama expresses itself, is that it wants to be one. It loves Hashem so much, it wants to be one. So how can love be inherited? The answer is that it's not love that we inherit, but it's a Jewish soul. It's a neshama that was passed from the forefathers, and that within it contains a very strong love and a chachma, a strong light of Hashem, an infinite light within this neshama. So now that we understood that it's not really love, it's a neshama, it's a soul that was inherited. And because it was a soul, within that soul, there's many different things. And one of it is, the main thing is that strong light that expresses itself in love. Okay? Do you guys see where we're going? What is the origin source of the neshama? So this is where we want to understand, where does this neshama come from? This neshama comes from the highest level of the 10 sfirot in the highest world, which contains the infinite light. So the source of it is from the chachma of the world of Atzilut. I'm sorry, you lost me. I'm going to go slowly. So the source of this neshama comes from the highest level. The highest world, right? There's 4 worlds. There's Atzilus, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. It comes from the highest world of Atzilus. And within the highest world, it comes from the highest faculty. In every world, there's 10 sefirot. This is Kabbalah, by the way, Dorit. This is what, but it's after in the book of Kabbalah, they actually tell you how to play around with the sefirot. I'm not sure what they tell you in this book. I never read it. But so the origin or the source of this neshama it comes from the world of Atzilut, from the Chachma, from the faculty of Chachma, which contains the light of infinite, the Or Ein Sof. The only reason why it can contain the light of Or Ein Sof is because it's so annulled, so humble, so nothing. It makes itself, comment on dit soumis, it makes itself submissive, exactly, completely to its higher source. Okay, mais je peux pas manger. Okay, fine. So now we understand how we inherited this love, that it's really a neshama we inherited. We understand the source, where it comes from. And because it comes from the source, what is the theme and aspiration of this soul? How does this soul express itself? What is it searching, this soul? What is it constantly yearning? Why is it constantly moving? Why do people, Jews, when they pray, they move like this? Why? Why is it? It's their soul that wants to go up. Actually, that was the answer when they saw this boy. He wasn't moving when he was praying, and different little things. It was, anyways, it was a very interesting story. So the aspiration, the theme of the soul is that it constantly wants to leave the body. It does not want physical. It does not want to be in this world. It wants to regain, to refine its source and be one with it and completely nullified. The soul is kedusha. It's very holy. Nothing can make it impure. Nothing can touch it. No matter how many averot you do, the soul will always stay holy. It will always stay holy because of its infinite light it has within it, and because of it's above comprehension, above knowledge, above anything we understand in this world. Having this inside our body creates that struggle, because at the same time we have our body with the nefesh habamit, with our animal soul that wants to live, that wants to have pleasures, that wants to stay in this world and only have pleasures, and the contrast creates that struggle. Now what happens, you can turn the page, what happens to the chachma, or to the soul? Okay, we say chachma and the neshama elokit, we understand that it's similar. Okay, it's not the same. I wouldn't say it's the same, but it's basically the source of the neshama. It's the expression of the neshama. Okay, this chachma. Okay, so what happens when it comes into a regular body that doesn't especially have control over itself? Okay, a body that the nefesh habamit controls it. Mm-hmm. What happens? So first of all, a part of the soul stays in the brain, and the other part goes into the left part of the heart. Remember, we learned about the Yetzer Tov, that some of it is in the brain, some of it is in the left part of the heart. So automatically it goes there. Now, because the nefesh habamit, because the animal soul is in control, it goes into exile. Now, what goes into exile? The one in the heart, the one that's emotive, that's connected to the emotion, goes into exile and is completely controlled by the animal soul. Alors, la neshama, elle vient dans le corps, okay, comes inside the body, okay? Yes. And part of it stays in the brain. Yes. That one in the brain goes to sleep. Oh. The one in the emotion, that's connected to emotion, is in exile.
The part in the brain goes to sleep for everyone?
Whoever is in control, not for a tzaddik. For a tzaddik, it's a up. But for someone who their body is in control, who their nefesh habamit is in control, the one in the chachma can't handle anything klipa, so it goes to sleep. It's asleep. Exactly. But the one in the heart is not asleep, it's in exile. Okay, and not only that, it says what happens
is in exile, no?
No, the one that sleep is in the brain, and it's sleeping. The one that's in the emotion is in exile. Okay, now before that, it says, the Tanya says that what happens when the chachma or the neshama comes into the body, it's controlled by the animal soul. It's like a sack that's over it. It's completely covered. So that's why people don't feel their neshama. It's like a bag of thick sackcloth that goes over this bright light and this bright soul and covers it to the point where you don't feel it. Now, it says that part of it is in the brain, part of it is in the heart. The one in the brain is asleep. What's the difference between sleep and the one in the emotion is in exile? What's the difference? So that's something I didn't really understand until this week. I didn't realize. I thought I was understanding it, but I didn't. When you're asleep, all your strength, all your talents, everything is still there, right? They didn't disappear. The only difference is you're sleeping, so you're not expressing them, right? So you still have all your strength, you still have all your capabilities and your talents but they're asleep, so you're not using them. So they're all there, but you're not using them. All you need to do is wake up, and as soon as you wake up, you're able to use them. In exile, someone who's in prison or someone who's in exile still has all his strength and all his capabilities and all his talents, but he uses it for the wrong thing. For example, in prison, they're going to make you do certain thing, or in exile, they're going to force you to use your strength for like building, things they want, right? So you're using your strength, but you're not using it to express yourself. You're not using it for yourself. You're using it for the person who is in control of you. And you cannot free yourself from that unless the person who is in control of you lets you. But usually they don't leave you. Usually people who are how do you call the exiler? The person who's on top of you, who's putting you in exile or in prison, doesn't let you free and completely controls, use your strength for his own will. You see the difference in sleep? In sleep, you're not using your strength. It's there, but you're not using it. In exile, you are using your full potential. This infinite light in your emotion is being used, but not for the right purposes. So for example, the neshama, that kind, it's a very strong light. We'll see later how we'll see how powerful this light is. When it's controlled by the nefesh abamit, it can do really great things, but in the negative way. So that's why sometimes when you see really bad things that Jewish people does, it makes sense that they can do something worse because they have such a strong potential within them, their neshama, and it's not being used for the right thing. And it's like, you'll see many times that like, revolutions or different things that were brought out. I know I brought this example, like Einstein, he took his strength and he used it for math and went really far. And it's not a coincidence that he was Jewish. He used, the Rebbe said that if he used that strength that he had within him for Torah, he would have been like a genius in Torah. So he used his strength. He still had it. It was just in exile, and he used it for math. Okay, it's not something spiritual. It's not something, I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying he used his strength in a different, that wasn't to bring more godliness into this world. So that's the difference between sleep and exile. You still have your strength and you're using it, but not for the right reason. Okay, so what happens to your chachma, to your neshama, when it's controlled by the animal soul? It's completely covered up. It's the one in your brain is asleep, so it cannot control you. It cannot take over your body. It cannot tell you what to do. And the one in your emotion, it's up. It's strength. It's full on strength, but it's being used for the wrong reason. And the Tanya continues something beautiful. It says, how is it possible that a Jew who has a neshama, who has a nefesh Elokit, who has a spiritual soul, such a strong light that constantly wants to reunite with God, how is it possible that he sins? How is it possible that he comes to doing a sin? So there's a concept that I guess God create that's called Ruach Shtus. Ruach Shtus is the spirit of folly that comes within, enters this mind of the Jewish person and makes him sin. Now, how does it work? There are two types of spirits of folly. Okay, this is something very interesting. It's when you're really understanding how we function. The spirit of folly is, it works in two ways, okay? So either it comes to the Jewish person and it makes him, it's when a person has no control over his body and it makes him do something unhealthy, even if he doesn't want to do it. And after he does it, he regrets it, but he has no control because he's so disconnected from himself that he can't control what he's doing. So that's one way that the spirit of folly reacts. Okay, that's called, it's like addiction, any addiction. You keep on doing, even if you don't want to do it, but it's so strong that you can't stop yourself. And you're so disconnected. There's a second way, okay? There's some people that are connected to themselves and still not doing Torah and mitzvot. So there's a second way that this spirit of folly will come. This spirit of folly will come in a more refined or smarter way. It will come with rational reason why they shouldn't they should be sinning, and they shouldn't be keeping Torah and mitzvot. Okay? So it's going to tell them that why should you do this? This is old fashioned. This is not for you. This is, and find different rational reasons why you shouldn't or should be doing what you're doing. That's not good for you. Okay? So the only way a Jewish person sins is when this Ruach Shtus enters him. And of course, this Ruach Shtus enters him because he allows it to enter him. Okay? That's what the whole concept of a Benoni, we understood in the other parag, that's constantly fighting to not allow this spirit of folly, this insane spirit come enter him and make him sin. That's what he's fighting. So why is this important to understand? It's because a Jewish person doesn't want I guess you can say that, the essence of a Jew is good. The essence of a Jew is good. We have a nefesh elokit. We have a godly soul that constantly wants to be united with God. But unfortunately, when we aren't able to have full control over our body, and our nefesh abamit, our animal soul controls it, we're not able to feel and to connect, and we allow this spirit of folly enter us, and which brings us to sin. Okay, so I think that's also a very interesting concept to understand. And the last thing that Alter Rebbe explains is what happens. How does this chachma within our brain, right? Because the one within our heart is in exile, and it's impossible. We learned already in the other parak that it's impossible for a human being to be able to control his heart, that he needs the help of God. So how do we awaken the chachma within the brain? The chachma within the brain is what will help us free the chachma within the heart out of exile. Okay, so at the same time, we learned in another parak that even a Benoni who fights every day against his yetzer hara, against his evil inclination, not to sin, and he's constantly learning, and he's always connected to God, he is not able to remove his evil inclination within him. It's impossible. He is not able to create a love. It's impossible. But he's able to awaken. In this parak, we learn he's able, and we're all able, we're all able to awaken a love that's deeper, that's born, that's innate within our neshama, and feel super connected to God. What happens? How? Nisayon bidvar emunah. Nisayon is a test within our faith. So when we are challenged, when our faith is challenged, and everyone according to what their level is, okay? There's the extreme case that the Alter Rebbe brings when a Jew is challenged to serve a different God or to stop believing in God or to serve idols or whatever it is, when he is challenged like that, his chachma wakes up and he is not able to disconnect from God because his love is so strong that he fears anything that will make him disconnect from God. So that's the extreme example. But there's many times where we're challenged, our faith is challenged to the point where it awakens our chachma. And our chachma is such a powerful light. Our chachma within our brain is so powerful that it removes automatically all the klipa within us, all that evil that we had that was blocking that light melts like a candle. Our thought, speech, and action, our levushim, our clothing that were controlled by the animal soul, are listened to the chachma, are completely controlled by the godly soul, and we are not able to disconnect from God, and we're not able to do whatever it was that will disconnect us from God. Do you understand this? This is very, very powerful. And this we see in extreme cases of Mesirat Nefesh. You can see Jewish people that didn't especially believe in God their whole life, or didn't especially learn too much Torah and mitzvot, or did any mitzvot. But when they were challenged, when their faith was challenged, suddenly they were ready to give up their life for God, which makes no sense. How is that possible? You don't even know who God is. You never learned. You never even said anything. You never even did anything for God. Why is it that now you're able to? Because that person's chachma was awakened, and to the point where the light is so powerful that it melts away any doubt, any darkness within him, any klipa that stops him from doing the right things, and his thought, speech, and action is fully connected and does not want to disconnect to God. And it's interesting in the Tanya, it writes when it talks about what happens when his chachma wakes up, it writes 4 different verses of what happens to the klipa when the chachma is awakened. Why? Yeah. Let's see who can know the answer. C'est dans le Tanya. C'est dans le Tanya. Je les connais pas par cœur, but I could go through the 4 verses, but why 4 verses? Because there's 4 levels of klipa. So now I'm teaching. It's a review.
Non, on a appris qu'il y a 4
Bien sûr. There's the 3 klipa tatmeot, the 3 klipa that are impossible to elevate, and then there's the 4th that you're able to elevate. That's klipa iba. So this light has so much strength. It's so powerful that is able to melt away all 4 klipot. Okay, so you have to understand, klipa is something that's very hard to fight. It's not possible to fight. Benoni, who for us, we call tzaddikim, who are people that are constantly learning Torah, constantly connected to God, constantly doing the right thing and fighting evil, they're not able to remove any klipa from within them. They're not able to do that. Only high tzaddikim are able to do that. But with this love, if you are able to reach and attain this love within you, this power, this infinite power within you, it melts away any darkness. It melts away anything that was blocking you, and something that makes no sense. The person is going to go against what he used to do or she used to do, and will want to only stay connected to God. And for me, this is the concept of Mashiach, something we can't understand because we live in a world full of klipa and we can't see the good so clear. We can't fight the evil so strong, but we're waiting for that chachma, the world chachma, because everything we have, the world has, for that chachma, for that bright infinite light that is sleeping in the world. We want to awaken it, and the minute it's up, all the klipa will just disappear. Will melt away, won't have any strength, won't have any power to control the world. You can have a Mashiach within you when your Chachma wakes up, and a Mashiach within the bigger picture, the world. So far, so good. You guys are understanding? I know we have to finish up, so we're going to conclude. What happens to the levushim? Remember what is a levush? What's a garment? Speech, thought, and action. Exactly. When the Chachma awakens, they are completely taken in control by the Nefesh Elokit. So when it wakes up, the Chachma completely controls them. They are completely submissive to the Chachma. And what does this show about the godliness in Chachma? It shows us how powerful this light is and how it's important to know the power that you have within you. You have a powerful light. Hashem placed a powerful light within every Jew, and he placed it. If he placed it, it's not just because we're lucky. It's because we have a job. We have a job to turn over klipa, to remove the klipa from this world, which is a job that's impossible, that's not natural, that's not human possible, that no human is possible to do it unless they have godliness. And every time we overcome a challenge, every time we are challenged and we are able to awaken that chachma, even a little bit, okay? Obviously, when the day someone opens up their chachma completely, that's a big, big miracle. But even a little bit, we wake it up a little bit for a split second, we are bringing a little bit more light into this world and removing a little bit more evil in this world. It's a very powerful light. It's the light of infinity. It's a light that is in contrast to what we know and what we understand. And because we have this light within us, because we have this strong light within us, there's two kinds of love. To finish off, we're going to finish off with understanding what love and fear is, something that we struggle with, okay? Love and fear are two opposites. Love wants to be together. Fear pushes away, okay? It's two opposites. When love is not a real love, it's going to be separate from fear. But when love is connected to the essence and the truth, and it's a real deep, true love, then love and fear are together. The love is so strong over here. The connection to wanting to be one with Hashem is so strong that it fears anything that will break this unity. So this is where love and fear becomes one. And this is where love and fear brings the healthy aspect to the love that we have. So how do we see that this love has fear? Is because when Chachma wakes up, it wakes up out of fear. It's so afraid because it was challenged, right? The challenge always brings fear. It's so afraid that this is going to disconnect us to God. And why is this fear? Because it loves God so much, it wants to be one with God, that it will not break that special bond with Hashem.
Sterna?
Yes.
Sorry, I missed the answer to the question, what does this show about godliness in Chachma?
Okay, so what does this show? What happens when this is connected to what happens to the levushim and what happens to the klipa? It shows how powerful this light that's within Chachma is. It's the power of infinity that we have, and it could just melt away klipa, which is something not human possible to do, and it completely takes control over the levushim, which is also something very hard to do. But more to take control over our garments is easier, but to remove klipa is much harder and not really human possible to do. So it shows the power of this light. And it's important to understand and to know that we all have this powerful light within us. So this is the class of today, chapter 19, and we will move on to chapter 20 next week. Any questions?
Oui, je voulais être sûre d'un truc, quelque chose que j'ai entendu. Ça veut dire qu'on a une partie de, chacun de nous porte une partie de quelque chose de Mashiach.
Exactement. Si tu veux, c'est la partie de Mashiach within us. It's okay. that redeemer spark within us.
Okay.
Come on, come. Ruby, are you coming in? Ruby.